2018-19 BMW IBSF World Cup Finals. We're in Calgary, Alberta in Canada. The 1988 Winter Olympic track hosts the final races of the World Cup season for skeleton and bobsleigh. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a frigid, snowy Calgary. Martin Haven and alongside me, John Morgan at this 1988 winter track. And John, still as much of a challenge as it ever was.
Well, we saw that yesterday in the men and women's competition, the makeup race from Königssee, built for the 88 games, hasn't been altered that much. With the Russian athletes in both men's and women's skeleton on the start records. And the track's very quiet up here, very flat. And this is where no mistakes are allowed. We saw a lot of mistakes out of curve 1 last night. Here's curve 3. Curve 4 starts to take a big left-hand turn, and the velocity starts to pick up here. 5, a little counter turn. Watch the picture on the top left of your screen where the chin gets forced down onto the ice by the athlete. Omega. 8, pivotal part of the track as they launch you into this long, steep straightaway, and you got to get the speed to go into this 270-degree whip around they call the Kreisel. You exit going uphill. Boy, you don't want to make any mistakes when you're going uphill because it's a gravity sport. Jane Chanel from Canada is the track record holder. She's in the field. Into the finish. Boy, we saw some hellacious exits to the finish in the men's competition. The track, little different conditions today than it was yesterday. The athletes that can adjust or the athletes are going to be successful.
Elena Nikitina of Russia is our World Cup points leader from Tina Hermann. Jacqueline Lurling not here this week. She's back home with her family in Germany. We wish them all the very best. And behind her, Sofia Griebel and Mimi Reneva. That's the battle for third place in the overall World Cup rankings. They will both vault Lurling. And therefore, as a result, Lurling will not claim her third World Cup title in a row. Tina Hermann needs a really huge result here. And she basically needs Elena Nikitina to crash and not finish to stand a chance of stopping the Russian, becoming the first Russian woman ever in women's skeleton to claim the Crystal Globe. In fact, she's the only Russian woman ever to win more than once in any season. She did that last year, she won twice, she's won twice this year as well. Well, as you said, John, the weather's very different. There's a light snow blowing in. It's -14. It was about +4 when they started yesterday afternoon's race. So that's going to put a real spanner in the works because for sliders like Renata Kutsina here, 3 runs in training because the sleds arrived late. She's never raced here before, and now the conditions are totally different.
Totally changed. So the coaches that are smart enough, been on this track, seen the weather changes, coaches that are adjusting the athletes' setup of the sleds, that's the coaches who are going to have successful athletes.
Yeah, and the poor athletes have to work out in turn 1 and 2 what happens in the snow.
And plus, what happened last night, they just finished sliding how many hours ago? 11 hours ago, and they slept on it, and they're back out again. 4 heats, 2 days, much like the World Championships. It'll be staged in Whistler in 2 weeks.
22-year-old Belgian Kim Marmans is again first out of the start shed. So she is our crash test dummy. There she goes. She's going to show us exactly what snow there is on the track. Out of this tiny corner 1, nice and neat.
Doesn't tap the wall. We saw a lot of athletes do that yesterday.
Finished 11th yesterday. Better second run than her first. Nice and quiet here in these early transitions. Not a lot of pace in the track. The ice is very cold, hard and brittle. It's been a really bitter winter here in Alberta. And then through the snow. Now there will be a sweep in the track, but you still see snow falling, so it'll be in the track. It won't be wet like, say, a Winterberg or an Altenberg, but it'll still be there. 70 miles an hour, 112 kilometers. Ooh, little skiddy. And that's going to be a factor of having the snow underneath you. Think of your own car. If there's a tiny bit of snow on the road, suddenly the grip is absolutely restricted. 59.55. What did she do yesterday? What was her first heat? A 58.4. So 59.55, over a second quicker. Slower rather. over a second slower in the first heat. Now, they did improve in the second heat. I I think this snow is definitely going to have an effect, particularly on the smaller athletes like Kim. So she started 5:76. Yesterday, her first start was a 5:40.
What? That's,
yep.
Come on, that's 3:10. There's something wrong there.
Well, let's have a look and see what the other Kim does. This is Dutch woman Kimberly Bos, 25 years old. She now has a total of 5 trips down the track, training and then 2 trips in the race yesterday. She'd never been to Calgary before. Kristen Bromley behind. He's been a winner here in men's skeleton. But your coach knowing how to drive in the snow and you knowing how to drive in the snow may not be the same thing.
5:46 in the first heat yesterday, 5:79. So that start track, a total different animal up there compared to what the athletes had yesterday. Yesterday was a fast start track, and there was a lot of problems on the exit of curve 1.
It was quite warm yesterday, relatively, hovering around 0, so maybe there was more grip on the spikes. Maybe today it's more like trying to find purchase on a sheet of glass. 2200s behind Kim Barmans.
Looks like the athletes are a lot more control with these sleds today. Of course, you can see the track. There's quite a bit of snow in it.
That was classic commentator's curse. Looks a little more controlled. Skids one way, skids the other. She's hitting the wall a lot. Yeah, this is a real, you've got a heritage as a glider's track. You've got to be very smooth aerodynamically, but you've also got to be brave because you take a lot of hits on the skeleton.
58.60 yesterday.
60.05.
Second and a half slower coming down the track. So this is what the athletes and coaches have to deal with. You know, up top right now, I'm sure the coaches are saying, wow, the track's a second slower. Geez, maybe, plus they can't do anything to their sleds now.
Runners are on.
Runners are on.
Runners are on.
Parc Fermé, 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, they said no more touching of the sleds.
Yep.
So it is what it is, but this is very surprising to be this much slower from 12 hours ago, 14 hours ago to now.
Yep, absolutely right.
Well, you have a choice of using this track or using this track.
Yep. Well, the snow definitely isn't helping. You can see
Remember
how much
yesterday
less
they
speed.
came up. Yeah, they used to came up. They came up all the way.
The bobsled finishes way back down the hill there. But
they got brakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't work.
Renata Kutsina of Russia making her 21st World Cup start. 12th in yesterday's race. So again, never been to Canada, to Calgary in her life. And
best finish of the season was a 7th.
5:66, all right. Well, she's got a little bit more in the tank. What'd she start yesterday? 5:45. So again, you know,
2/10.
Yeah.
2/10 at the top and 60/100 at the bottom.
And that's what
look at the snow guys are out now.
Yeah.
They got the shovelers out.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a certain protocol the jury has activated to, okay, after 3 sleds, we're going to shovel in the straightaways.
Yeah, I think it's probably a 3 sled. It's not raining, it's snowing that heavily.
Or 2300s. But we saw yesterday, that doesn't mean much of this track. We saw some hellacious rides, especially in the men's competition.
Yeah.
The exit of Kreiselberg.
Kutsina still a quarter second up.
Tony Bobsleigh, can't remember what he did on the exit of the...
Brutal.
Wow.
Brutal.
Airborne.
All right, so Kutsina
takes the lead.
Balmans was 11th yesterday, Bos was 13th, Kutsina was 12th, so she was between the 2 Kims. Now she's ahead of both of them. Now, whether they have guessed correctly on runner choice and the way that the sled is set up, how much rock it has, how much of a rocking chair bow to the runners, or whether she's just learned fast. We'll wait and see in the next
Kimberly
heat.
Bos, it was 300s from the Russian yesterday. Now she's 8,500s back.
Yeah.
So that's not drive down the track. That's the sled setup.
There's
She's happy with that.
Do you know what? She's really so positive. She was just really looking forward to getting on the track. There's Jeff Farche with the Canadian flag. Good to see him here. And the support is for Mimi Reneva, yesterday's, well, I was going to say winner, but runaway winner, field destroyer. I hope I'm not setting her up for a fall here. She just blew them away yesterday.
First time she ever has won on North American soil.
First time she ever won on an artificial track as well. Little drive line skid there down into
57. Yesterday she had a 29.
What?
Wow.
3/10 slower? Well, that is not athletes, that is start area.
Yeah. Now,
they can knock 3 or 4 runs out.
Ooh, she crossed over and hit the take on there. You know, it's going to be a very challenging procedure here for her to go back-to-back two competitions in a row.
Well, Mimi won her 5th ever World Cup race. That was in St. Moritz 2 seasons ago. She won 15 races later in St. Moritz this year, and then went just 1 race without a win before getting her 3rd career gold yesterday.
13. She's right close to the field.
Yeah.
Not even accelerating away.
Well, let's see what everybody else has got. 2600s. Now, that final corner, you can win or lose there. We know that already. So she found another 10th in the last corner.
Yesterday, she was ahead of the Russian by 1 second, 1900s.
Yeah.
Now she's only ahead by 2600s.
Wow.
Martin, let's just take all this paperwork from yesterday and throw it out, because there's no similarities from yesterday.
There's no form book today, is there?
Yeah, there's no, this is a different script.
Yeah. Well, skidding around there in that crossover.
And there's a little snow coming down, right?
Yeah, still a little snow falling. So there's Mimi. She was definitely in her happy place yesterday.
She's got to finish about 5 places ahead of Sophia Griebel to advance above her to the 3rd place in the World Cup. They don't give away a 4th place trophy. Not everybody gets a medal here.
Lācis of Great Britain finished in 6th place yesterday. Now starting her 38th World Cup race, the Olympic bronze medalist. Coach Eric Benotas, also a race winner on this track in his sliding career.
5:41 start, knowing what we know now, this should probably be like a 65.
Gets 3 straight out the drive lines.
2800's worse at the start. Boy, that's weird.
Everybody's a 1/4 second to 3/10 away, aren't they? And that is start area, so maybe it's a little frosty on the runners, just holding the sled back.
Martin, there's one thing we will not be discussing today, that is track records.
Start records.
Or track records.
No, you're right.
Good, it's 2200's back, stop the bleeding. Now this is a very experienced slider with good lines that, oh, there's the jinx.
Yeah. And look at the big clouds of snow.
Only 1400's back though.
If you're offline, then snow slows you down as well.
Watch out, 1100, she's coming back. 3rd, 2100, she lost some time back there.
She was a bronze medalist here the last World Cup 4 seasons ago. And across the line in 3rd place.
Wow, she's behind Kutsuna too.
Yep. So 59.26 to 58.05.
Yesterday, she beat Kutsuna by 5200ths in the first run. Maybe that's why Kutsuna was so happy getting out of the sled.
That's 1.2 seconds slower than she was in the first heat yesterday.
That's a lot. Well, this had a lot to do with why she's 3/10 back.
But look at all the snow as well, John. I'm saying if they're sweeping every 3rd sled, that's
they
not
haven't
enough.
done anything in the anything. No sweeping has gone on in the Kreisel exit. This is where we saw fire on ice last night in the exit of Kreisel.
Yeah. So Laura Dees looking a little downcast. Renata Kutsuna 2nd, Laura Dees 3rd, Mimi Reniva the leader. Canada's Jane Channel is next up. 5th place in yesterday's race, her 39th World Cup start. She's the most experienced of the 3 Canadian women.
5:32 yesterday in the first run, the 4th best start. This should be probably 5:55, 5:56. 55. Well, only 200's better than Ravina.
And she dropped behind immediately, so she clearly didn't quite have the momentum she needed.
fourth place in the opening event in Segulda, and the rest of the season looked like she was not reaching her goals. A lot of double-digit finishes. This is a very good athlete.
You can see a lot of shoulder and
Green
elbow
numbers.
work. She's really struggling
Back to
with the
red
sled.
though. That foot out was right at the clock.
Yeah, she's got pace, but she's struggling to
Losing
control
speed
it.
is a little way back now. She lost a lot of speed.
Oh.
Exeter Kreisel.
And that's where Mimi found about a tenth. So this will be 3 or 4 tenths back at the line, maybe, from Mimi. She is 4 tenths back.
back. She's behind Laura D. She's behind the Russian Kutsina, who is so far the surprise of the day. Everybody else is like chalk. Pravina, we expected. Dees, Chanel, we expected all that. We don't expect Kutsina yet.
All right. Well, I'm going to say ni hao to Team China, watching us in Lillehammer this evening. It's early morning here. I know it's afternoon there, with Mark Wood and Patrick Shannon bringing on the latest athletes from China. We're missing Chinese athletes in the women's field, so we look forward to seeing some hopefully next year in the World Cup. Look at Jane Channel here. Look at all the snow. I mean, it's just everywhere that the sled is going.
That's where she had green numbers, and then back to red, right there. So after the exit of 8, this is the Kreisel. This is nice form, and look at her toes. Her rudder comes out to steer her off this section that goes uphill right there. Doesn't hit the wall, but a lot of steering on the exit.
Yeah, got hard out the Kreisel. Next up for Russia, our World Cup points leader, Elena Nikitina. If she doesn't crash, she will be the first ever Russian woman to claim the Crystal Globe. Now, if that's not a commentator's curse, I don't know what it is. 5:37.
5:19 yesterday. Only 1,800 off. Everybody's 2 tenths more off their start. But this Russian athlete is on another planet with their ability to start the sled, and she taps the wall on the entrance to that 5 and skids through under the 3-quarter combination of 6, 7, and 8.
And last year, John, she became the first Russian woman ever to win more than 1 race in a season.
2000s. Wow, that's 4100s. But remember, yesterday she couldn't find the line on the bottom part of the track, and we just saw a replay of that. Now the clock's down to 14. Now
she's
it's
going to be in the red at the line.
Red at the bottom.
She might not even be the best Russian. She could be behind.
Some hit.
Look at the speed. There's nothing left on the sled.
Not even the best Russian. You're right.
So well before that.
59.24 at the bottom.
But in retrospect, she needs one more descent down the track to win the World Cup title.
Exactly.
So what is her coach telling her? Listen, just take a victory lap.
Yep.
And go to the bottom and get that big globe, which a Russian has never won before.
But she can't do that.
No.
Well, she can do that, but she doesn't want to do that. She loves to race.
Okay, well, look at this up and down. Here's the down. Centrifugal force is going to bring her back up in the outlet of the curve.
Right there, she knows she's in big trouble.
Close your eyes and hope for the best.
Now, there's not a skeleton slider there that's not closing their eyes and wincing as they see that, because they know it's going to hurt.
Yesterday, she had nosebleeds coming off the sled.
Yep. A lot of athletes
different colored uniform today.
Yeah.
Remember, she put a hole in her uniform yesterday.
All right, next up, Maddie Smith of Great Britain, the end of her rookie World Cup season. Maddie starting her 11th World Cup race this morning. Finished in the top 10 again yesterday.
43 starts, so this should be 65, 68, 76.
Wow.
Whoa.
Well, again, let's not even suggest that the athletes 17 or 16 hours after 2 pushes can't produce another one. There's definitely something at the top of the track that's slowing them right down.
But not that much, Mark.
No.
Not that much. The track is definitely a different color.
Well, listen, track sprinters can do 50 meters a dozen times a day, and these athletes, they're all fast twitch fibers. There's no reason they can't.
What do you think the track crew? They had to work all day yesterday.
All day
They had
today.
bobsled training yesterday morning.
So they've been in from sort of 6 till midnight.
How many hours of sleep did they get?
Not so much.
This multi-heat competitions puts a lot of pressure on that track crew, no matter where you go.
6 at the start. She's in 7th place race at the moment between the two Kims, and at the line, 7th. Ahead of Kimberly Voss, behind Kim Marmons.
7/10 back.
Again, when you've got so little experience of the track, like most of these sliders, when the track changes totally, what you used to know goes right out the window.
Well, she was 7/10 back yesterday at the end of the first run. She's 7/300 back at the end of the first run today. So in retrospect, this is a true number.
Yeah, the only surprise at the moment in the way it's panning out is Renate Kutzner in second.
Wow.
I tell you what, if she takes a medal, you will need to tie her down to stop her bouncing around like Tina. Well, there's Maddie Smith. Next up is Sophia Griebel. She is in a battle with Mimi Reneva, our current leader, to overhaul Jacqueline Lurling and move into 3rd in the World Cup standings. And basically, if Reneva is 2 places ahead of Sophia, who finished 9th yesterday, then Mimi will be 3rd in the World Cup standings.
Not a very good descent down the track yesterday.
Yeah, she couldn't piece it together. Doesn't have the greatest start, 5.76, same as Maddie Smith.
2,600 off her start from yesterday.
And she relies on intimate knowledge of the track to really perfect her lines and find that speed, and she doesn't have that here.
Of course, the first year that the skeleton team has been without their coach, Jens Bueller, who won an Olympic gold medal on this track at the 1988 Winter Olympic Games in men's luge for East Germany.
Oh, again, low line gives her a hit on the exit. Top 6 on the splits. Well, this is better than she fared yesterday, but she's still got a couple of weapons in the arsenal coming down behind her. Elizabeth Meyer, Tina Hermann were in the medals yesterday. They've still got to
better than yesterday,
It
though.
is.
She hit top 6. Oh. She hit that expansion joint up there. 5th. That's not bad.
Well, next up is Tina Hermann, then Elizabeth Meyer. So
if you do the points right now, Mimi Ravina would go ahead of her.
Yep.
Right now, she's...
There needs to be a 2-place separation.
Reneva would go into the 3rd place spot.
She's not going to catch Tina Hermann. Tina Hermann, realistically, isn't going to catch Nikitina. If Nikitina finishes 14th, she'll be the World Cup champion.
Well, don't jinx her.
I know,
She's still got to come down the track twice.
Yeah. Well,
here's a little late out of 8. And, you know, you have to hit the wall, suffer the consequences, and don't oversteer. But look at that. That's weird. That's that expansion joint there. Something weird there.
We're not going to see that with the bobsleds, but boy, the skeleton athletes
feel
it.
A couple athletes yesterday.
So Tina Hermann, 2nd in World Cup standings, and yesterday she finished in the silver medal position. This morning, early call for her 40th World Cup start.
World champion in 2015.
She's been
World
a
Cup champion in 2015. European champion in 15. And then this other athlete showed up called Jacqueline Lurling, and it sort of put her in the silver position in the German program.
Yeah, she saw Lurling's headlights in her medal that year, in her mirror that year, and Lurling has overhauled her the last couple of seasons. Tina's been the silver medalist in the World Cup standings at the end of the last 2 years.
Second last year,
yeah, it looks like she will be again this year, but not to Lurling. 2100s back, so 5th fastest start, John. That's not bad for Tina Hermann. There's not too many races where she'll be the 5th fastest starter.
There's a couple starters to go, but that's good for her.
She is coming
69.
down the straightaway now. Nice exit.
47 yesterday. She was like 2,200 off her start. Most
1400s behind. She's closing. The gap from 1st to 2nd is a 1/4 of a second.
She's flying like she did yesterday.
She's in 2nd place on the splits.
Gonna catch her.
How close will
Big
she
speed,
get?
124.
At the line. 300s back. Fantastic. What a race we're going to have on our hands in the 2nd heat. There was almost a smile there from her coach.
Yesterday, both runs, she was sort of average until she got out of the Kreisel, and then she put the rocket boosters on, and she's got fast lines on the bottom part of this track, which is a very flat track on the bottom. These lines, we've seen some athletes hit the wall, and she's close.
Takes her about 1 kilometre on any track to undo the loss of time at the start.
Not
and
bad
from
there.
then on,
yeah, she
makes hay.
She was a rocket ship on the bottom for the 3rd straight heat.
Look at this.
She's still mad at herself for something.
Yeah. Well, you know, you get one line wrong, and that's all that matters. Mimi Reniva leads by 300 from Tina Herman, Renata Kutzner and Elena Nikitina battling for bronze. 37th World Cup start of Elizabeth Meyer's career. Her 2nd ever World Cup start. She won here in Calgary. That was her first race win after silver the week earlier in Lake Placid. She was bronze medalist yesterday.
Oh, drift there.
But
52.
doesn't hit the wall.
That's only 1,200 slower than her start from yesterday. That's the best start comparison from last night to tonight. Only 1,200 difference. I said tonight, this morning.
Yeah.
They raced 12 hours ago. Now they're out here again. Good crossover.
Well, Meyer in the lead by 500s at the start. Now out to a
2400s.
second. Here we go.
This could be her race.
This is her 4 seasons ago. Lizzie Arnold narrowly beat her in Lake Placid when she'd led the first heat.
3,400s.
Never got close here a week later, 4 seasons ago. Big skid. That's going to take a 10th out of the tank. 2,900s might only be 12 or 15 at the line. Look, she's much slower. 1:59.
Way slower. She's 5 kilometers slower.
And at the line, a
1000 lead.
All right, but she leads. How many times has she led a first heat this season? I'm not sure she's led any heat this season. Silver in Segulda, I don't think she led the first heat. I think Nikitina led both of them.
She's eating home-cooked meals. She's on her home track.
And Mama Rita's cookies. By the way, Rita, hello.
This is a little rough transition there,
Yep.
late. You can see that.
Well, she was accelerating away all the way through to Christ, and it's here. Watch the hit on the wall and the big skid. Look at that skid.
Skid into 11.
Yeah, skid 11, skid 12. There's a smile. All right, next up is the first of our 2 American athletes. 32nd World Cup start for Kendall Wessenberg. Easy for me to say. Finished 8th yesterday. Hot off the heels of a bronze medal in Lake Placid last week.
Hey, she's without her start time. If you look at her numbers, she had one of the best drives down the track. But when you're 40/100s behind at the start, it's tough to do on these tracks. There's such an emphasis on the start. But she was as good as anybody driving down the track yesterday.
Well, the longer the track, the more she likes it. She's got 5:84, so that's 3/10 slower than we've just seen from Liz Meyer.
2,000 slower than her time yesterday. That's the
Only 2/10, all right.
12th best start in the field of 12 athletes down for this athlete from Modesto, California. 2 medals in her career, 1 in Lake Placid last weekend, and then in St. Moritz that runs the forest of 1,700 meters. So if she gets a long track, she has a chance.
Yeah. Well, let's see what she's doing here. 12th at the start, climbing up towards the top 10. 1:19.5, 74.3.
Great speed. That's better speed than Meyer.
Oh, it clatters the wall there, but not as bad. 1:10.9.
She's bringing it back. 6,600s.
Herman was faster. She was in 8th place at the end of yesterday's race. I think she's going to be in 8th place at the line. 7th. All right, so again, she finds speed. The longer the track is, the better it works for her. She could almost be a German athlete, the way that her sliding works. So she's ahead of Sophia Griebel, behind Laura Dees, and that's a battle of 700ths of a second.
Yeah, she was 800ths ahead of Griebel yesterday at the end of the first run, and she's 100th ahead of Griebel in this run.
Yeah.
So there is something we can compare.
There you go.
Struggles down the side, the straightaway. You can see her feet out now, trying to set her up for a consistent line so she can exit here without the violence that we saw there.
Yeah.
Hey everybody.
Hey.
How's it going?
Well, we're warmer than you, Kendall, that's for sure. Next up is Russia's Yulia Kanakina, the 3rd of our Russian sliders. Her 25th World Cup start this morning. She missed the odd one here or there, particularly to go to Junior Worlds. Was the Junior World Champion a couple of seasons ago.
There's one athlete that hasn't figured out how to take these little trays down these ice canals at 75 miles an hour. It's this one here. She has fantastic starts.
Yep.
I mean, the former ballerina, is as good as anybody.
5:19 yesterday, 5:39 today. That's as close to yesterday's starts as anyone's got.
Only 200ths off her teammate, who she tied yesterday in the bush run. But just listen to all the scratching and the friction going on.
Well, that's the crackle of the runners on the brittle ice here.
It's ice that they can't water because it's been so cold.
She's still in the lead, John. 1,200s up. One medal this season, her first ever World Cup medal. Could she do it again here in Calgary? She's still leading at the Kreisel. 1:18.1 is good speed.
She had two horrific trips yesterday. Two fantastic starts, just couldn't bring it to the bottom. Only 800s back.
Is she going to be the top Russian?
This would be great for her confidence
Second
going into the
place
World
still
Championship.
ahead of yesterday's winner, Mimi Reneva at the line. Third. How far behind Reneva? 100th of a second.
You would have told us that Ravina would be, Katakina would be the top sled.
Well, yesterday...
So it could be the second sled and then Nikita.
Yesterday she finished 14th. Mimi was 4800ths ahead of second. She was over a second behind her. She's 100th behind her this morning.
Tells you how bad a two heats she had yesterday.
Yeah. Well,
and she's got a World Cup medal to her credit already this year. That's, you know,
got a lot of turn one there.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah. But the top of the
dealing
track,
on that was 5-6. That was a tough transition.
Not as bad a skid there as Liz Meyer either, but you see all the snow building up.
10 there.
All right, now she needs to put a second trip together. No race yesterday for Ashley Pittaway, because yesterday you were only allowed to race if you were originally on the entry list in Koenigsee, and she wasn't.
So they threw another leg girl who went and got 7th.
Yeah.
Great run for her. She had the third best. She had the third best time of the run yesterday.
Yeah, that was Kimberly Murray.
Third best time in a second run, so what a good future she's got.
Ashley in her 7th ever World Cup start. So she and Kim Murray have both got 6 up to yesterday.
When you have the worst start time of the 14 sleds that have come down so far, Martin, you have a tough task in front of you. You know, she's a glider. She's got talent as a glider, but boy, you can't make any mistakes, especially up top of the track.
She's not raced here in the World Cup. She's only raced here in the junior levels, so not wildly experienced on the track. Again, conditions very different from the training day. So to say from this week, but they only got 1 day of training in skeleton.
Bad tap.
1:10.2, decent speed.
Considering the start, yes.
Yeah. Now, can she find even one spot at the bottom? 1:16.8, 72 miles an hour. And at the line, 14th place, 60.08. So 300s behind Kimberly Bos of the Netherlands, who raced yesterday, don't forget. So Ashley has been on the track once.
4900ths behind at the start, the leader. So that should be a second and a half at the bottom. And she was only a second and a quarter. But the start.
Lots to think about. And that's the problem when you're such an inexperienced athlete in terms of your total number of trips down tracks. You're always trying to figure it out on the fly.
You know, you can see the scrape marks over there on the wall. There's been a lot of sleds hitting there.
Yeah, well, those are from the summer bobsleds. They leave black marks on the concrete. 2 to go in the first of our 2 heats, the World Cup finale for women's skeleton. Martin Haven and John Morgan trackside in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Savannah Grable of the USA, her 25th World Cup start. And Savannah finished in 16th place in yesterday's field of 16. So she will want to move up the order.
Well, her nemesis is the start also.
Could end up being a battle between her and Ashley Pittaway.
591.
All right, so a 10th ahead of the British slider at the start.
Clean.
Just going into
Needs to be clean. When you have a vicious start on this track, then you have to have no mistakes the whole way down to have a chance.
So she's up to 13th on the split, so she's got 2 sleds behind her at the moment. Up to 12th place, or is she not quite?
picture perfect.
13th, She's really stopped the bleeding up there.
Now she's
Ready
trying to
for the
catch
start.
Madeline Smith of Great Britain. She's
She
already
shouldn't
ahead.
be that easy.
Ahead of Hittaway and Boss. 12th place now, so now she's trying to catch Kim Marmons and Jane Channel for place in the top 10.
Bang, she hit the expansion
12.
joint.
All right.
76 hundredths back. Yesterday on the first run, she was a minute 22 or second 22 back, so she's improved her positioning.
500s behind Kim Marmons in 11th, but she's 2/10 away from a top 10 finish. In fact, 2,500s away from a top 10. But with the weather conditions here, John, this is going to be a random selection of runs, I think, in the two heats. Consistency is going to be very hard to find.
That's Kanakina.
Yeah.
She can get consistent. She could walk away with the middle, but those two Canadians on top, it'll be pretty tough to catch either one of them. They're a little late there, and then watch her here at the end. If they show it, she hits the expansion joint. Owen smiling.
1 to go, and it's Switzerland's Marina Gilardoni. Her 69th World Cup start, 11 of them as a bobsled brakewoman.
We talked about her. Might be a good candidate to go to women's mountainbike.
Yeah, as well as skeleton. You know, she's 31 years old. She's still got power and speed,
Well,
and
she
she
doesn't
knows ice.
She doesn't have the power and speed she used to. She's, I'm sure she's about 80%, because she used to dominate the start.
5:58, and the fastest was a 5:37. So yeah, quarter second.
She's only 10 hundredths off her start from yesterday, so she's old. She's one of the closest athletes in the field.
She's lost least, and she's a 10th back. Now, what she has got on her side is experience, although not a huge amount on this track. Plus, also, being a former bobsledder, she's got mass. There's a lot of muscle on Marina Gilardoni. And that helps keep the speed up when you hit the snow.
Wow, she's in fourth.
1:17.8, that's really
Watch
good
out
speed.
here!
Oh, well, that's
that.
it. Look, she's lost 8 kilometers an hour there.
She was faster 6. She's still going to be a top 10. This is going to be a great improvement from her run yesterday. Though.
She was looking like a top 3 run. And at the line, 11.
Still better than yesterday. She had the 6th best start time today. Yesterday, she had the 12th best start time in the first run. Yesterday, she was 1.43 seconds out. Today, she's only 6/10 out. So she's improved by half a second, except for that little exit in Kreisel.
You think we're going to see
Too
that
high,
again? Again,
back
like,
down. Because when you see her disappear like that, there's no place to go but up and out.
Oh,
not as bad as the
Von Schleinitz
guy. She got some fire and ice.
Oh, shoulders, hips, ankles, everything got a welt against the wall there.
Spectacular pictures.
Yeah.
She doesn't think so.
Well, that's going to hurt. Her shoulder, her elbow, her hip,
she was
her
in
her
4th
ankle.
place on the splits.
Yeah, and accelerating up the line. Well, we had 3 Canadians in the top 5 in yesterday's race. We've got 3 Canadians. Oh no, where's Jane Channel? Down in 10th. We've got
2 Canadians atop the
top
leaderboard.
2. Yesterday's winner is 2nd. Yesterday's bronze medalist leads.
Their motto: save the track.
The last 2 winners on this track are 1st and 2nd. Hey, figure that out. So Elizabeth Meyer leads from Mimi Reneva, and look how close it is. Top 4 could easily win this. Kutsina, Nikitina, Laura Dees, Kendall Wessenberg on down. There's a great battle shaping up. There's 5 or 6 sleds, because Sophia Griebel is only 100th behind Kendall Wessenberg. Jane Channel 200s behind her.
We've seen what the track can do, especially in the exit of Kreisel. So it's.
I mean, look at Gilardoni. She should be maybe 2/10 higher up the order.
At least.
At least. Wow, what a second heat we've got in prospect. The sleds will be on ice. We'll be here at 10:30 local, which is 17:30 GMT.
Twilight zone in the first heat.
Yeah. All right, who's going to come out with the goodies here? There's only one way to find out. Join us for the second heat at 10:30.